Hello, my lovely people. Lagosians. Lagosians. I want to show you guys what you missed. So, but one thing that I am sure of, that P2B has told Nigerians that they are now gidigba, they are standing gidigba as the opposition, as the people that will be checking and trying to find out that thing that you guys are doing, being on your nyash every minute to see what. Okay, where did this where did this go? So, but this video is for Lagosians, for the governorship candidate of a Labour Party in Lagos that challenged Shomolu, that Lagosians, a Lagosian, the guy is a Lagosian, but Lagosians treated him like a plague. They treated him so bad, and now he's trying to remind you guys what you missed. Look at what you missed. And I need you guys to listen to him, how he's going bumper to bumper with Sonwolu. Just because he lost election, it's only somebody who came for something that when you lose election, you start causing problem. No, this time he's behind Sonwolu bumper to bumper. He's even calling for the Congress to start the impeachment on him with the money. I need you to hear it from him. It's not like I am the one saying it. You guys will say, she's enemy of progress. Who gives a damn? So please hear it all by yourself. When you finish watching, please consider subscribing. From me to you. And I thank every one of you that have subscribed. I love you. Thank you.
Recently leveled against it by the Labour Party's Gbadebo Rose Vival regarding the provision of legal services to Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Gbenga Omotosho, did not mince words about that when the morning show crew spoke with him this week. Let's take a listen.
First, there is a matter that you mentioned before you came into this, which I consider more serious, that Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, the governor, paid lawyers legal fees from the state treasury. I say here now categorically that there was nothing like that. It's all false. It's all fake. It's from incredible sources. There was something that was brought up, and Mr. Sanwo-Olu refused to approve it because the person who may have prepared the paper may have been somebody who is not knowledgeable about such matters. You can't spend state funds on political disputes or political matters in whatever guys. So Mr. Sanwo-Olu knows this very well. So the Attorney General and Mr. Sanwo-Olu, they refused to pay that money, and it was not approved. If anybody has any proof that a dime of the state's money left the treasury on this particular matter, the person should just bring it out.
Well, that was Lagos Commissioner Gbenga Omotosho. But how convenient could it be to just sweep such a clear constitutional infraction, if proven true, under the carpet? In law, they say the lot is on he who alleges to prove. And on that score, we're now being joined from Arise News London studios by Gbadebo Rose Vival, an architect, politician, and activist, as well as the former governorship candidate of the Labour Party in Lagos State. Good morning, GRV. Good to have you on the morning show.
Good morning. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you very much. Good to have you. All right, let's dive straight into it. You have latched on a lot, quite, much on the controversy involving the Lagos State and the procurement issues around the amount of money that was either spent or spent in a way that is not consistent with good governance. But I'm sure that you have followed what the Lagos State government's reaction has been. The governor himself has said that the state could make mistakes and that they will correct those mistakes and move on from there. The Commissioner for Information was on our show during the week and did say that nothing of the sort that you are personally alleging about the 200 million naira legal services, that Lagos State never paid any of such amount. And it says that if you have evidence to the contrary, you should bring it forward. Are you satisfied with what both the governor and the commissioner have said, or you think that they are merely playing to the gallery?
Well, there's one thing we all agree on, which is the fact that public funds cannot be used to handle the personal legal issues that Mr. Governor finds himself in. That's something that we all agree on, and agree that that is an abuse of public trust. Now, in terms of evidence, the evidence is directly from the Lagos procurement website, the agency's website. And after he came on your show, we put out a statement where we quoted where we got those numbers from directly. You can download it from the Lagos procurement website. And it was in January 2023. We literally took snapshots of the documents. We have the downloaded hard copy of the document. So it's very, the brazen way that they come on air and lie is really unbecoming and is a real abuse of public trust, because we did not manufacture these documents. We put, if you look on my social media, we put the website where you can go, Lagos State's own website. And let us bear in mind that these are awards that have been paid. These are not budget estimates. These are payments that have been made. The companies or institutions that are getting payments are listed. The description of what these payments are for is listed. And it's not just the legal services. I mean, Mr. Funsho Duarte has done a brilliant work in analyzing funds that are so padded. I have focused on things that are impeachable. So, for instance, taking money to spend on decoration of campaign offices, which was seen in the June report. Taking money to spend on delegates, organizing political delegates congress, which is in the July report. So these things are listed. There is no controversy. They are listed. The website, the link where you can go and download it is there. We noticed that they've started adjusting some of those documents. So we have somebody that's been on the site, time stamping the documents in real time throughout the day. So we know for a fact that these documents are genuine because we got them from Lagos State itself. And it points to the brazen way that they've established that the state treasury is linked to their accounts and there will be no consequence. That's why they can brazenly put this on there without expecting any consequence to come out of it. And that is something that we as a people must address, because in times of such hardship, and if you notice from when I started campaigning, the key foundational column part of my campaign was transparency and accountability. And you have to do that to earn public trust. An institution where 200 million naira, and that's what we've seen, is being spent on pre-election matters. I don't even want to imagine what was spent on the actual tribunal and all of that. But these are documents that are gotten freely from the Lagos State website. So that's where I'm going to stop there.
All right, then, Mr. Rosviver, thank you for joining us today. Now, in calling for, Governor Sanwo-Olu's resignation, you specifically cited these payments for legal representation and other expenditures. The Commissioner of Information and Strategy, Mr. Gbenga Motosho, has assured that Governor Sanwo-Olu will not and has not misappropriated public funds. Now, what specific steps would you recommend to independently verify and scrutinize government expenditures to ensure fiscal responsibility? And I also want to just bring your attention quickly to one of the procurements that was on the website, where they spoke about the 152 million naira for the restoration of the water supply at the official residence of the Oba of Lagos. I want to know what your thoughts are on that, because he specifically said that in itself was them giving back in a way, in a CSR, because that is one of our longest standing palaces. So what are your thoughts on that, and how exactly would you handle that going forward?
Now, I believe that our traditional institutions need to be developed, need to be propped up, needs to be, you go to England, you go to Buckingham Palace, you should see grandeur. This is how, it's an investment actually, because that's how you attract tourists to come into the state to see something different. Again, a government can argue and try and wiggle his way out of a lot of things, whether it is 7 million on fans that they then say was a 1.998 billion naira mistake. That is all well and good. What I'm trying to focus on, and this is extremely important, is when you take public funds to deal with political and personal matters, right? A government has its policy, has an agenda. If its agenda is to invest in traditional institutions, to prop up the palace, to create a nice, beautiful surroundings for our traditional elite, I believe that that is fantastic, right? It's an investment. It's something that can be linked to tourism. But again, the focus must stay on the fact that the public assets, public funds, are for the benefit of the greater Lagos, are for the benefit of the people of Lagos. They cannot be used to settle legal fees of the governor or decorate or carry out things for a political party. Political parties have means by which they generate funds, and they can justify how they spend it. They sell nomination forms. They have means of income. And it should be unacceptable that taxpayers' money, people that wake up early in the morning to go to work and they're paying their taxes via payee, these are monies that will now be used to settle another man's legal expenses. It's completely unacceptable.
Mr. Rosevivor, in calling for Governor Sanwo-Olu's resignation, do you feel like these payments that we're seeing, do you think it reaches the level of him resigning from office over, as you said, you believe these are impeachable offences, but do you think that these offences, the fragrances, the legal fees, if true, do you think that this reaches the level of which Mr. Sanwo-Olu should step down from office and resign?
We cannot, if people want to be stealing from the Commonwealth and act in interests that are not in the interest of the people of Lagos, we cannot also join them to normalize it, right? In England, an MP will spend £200 that was inappropriate and he will resign. £200, that's the equivalent of almost 300,000 naira, right? And these standards did not come from nowhere. People pushed to create a new normal. And that is what citizens must do at this point. Because again, we are looking at records that are on the state website. We have not carried out a comprehensive audit to actually see how people are spending money, especially at a time where so many people are suffering. People are complaining about how expensive medicines are. Inflation is at an all-time high. The cost of governance, the ease of doing business. Lagos ranks number 20 out of 36 states, right? There's a lot of work that needs to be put in to ensure that the people of Lagos have a good quality of life. And that also costs money. So we should be spending money judiciously, right? And if a governor has gone against his oath of office and has, bastardized public trust, if he's honorable, he will resign, right? And in the situation where he does not do the honorable thing and resign, the party will sit down and will look at ways to start talking to the Speaker of the State Assembly to start commence impeachment procedures. We cannot just accept this normal. You must do something about it. I always say that governance and democracy is a two-way street. We push this way and we create a new normal to a point where 5 years' time, 10 years' time, people will not think that this is normal to do anymore. People will think that, I've done this, so I should do the honorable thing and resign. These are dialogues that are two-way streets that must be ongoing. And that's what we're pushing for now.
All right. Gbadebo, you said earlier that you are aware that some adjustments are already being made on the procurement website of Lagos State and that figures are being changed. So I'd like to ask you, so far, which of the adjustments have you noted? You said that you have put somebody on it for a real-time monitoring of what is going on. Apart from the one that the Lagos State government came out clearly to say that the deputy governor, I believe, which said that his office never got 2 billion, but 2 million. I believe that that's part of what you claim is being adjusted. So apart from...
so that's the main one I'm talking about.
All right.
After Mr. Duarte came on air, we noticed that document was changed. The sum at the end was changed and those were adjusted. Now, whether they want to say it was a mistake or not, they then now need to show us the accounts to say that these different items came out that were on that same list, and this 2 billion that we listed here, it was actually 2 million that went out, right? An audit needs to be done. You see, so governance must be transparent and accountable. The fact that we're just looking at procurement awards, right, which is after the fact of payment, as opposed to line-by-line items of budgets and transparency that we get with the federal government, right, is because they are line-by-line items that we could see that, you know, the president was looking for in the supplementary budget certain amount of billions for cars, certain amount of billions to renovate Dodden Barracks, certain amount of billions for a yacht. That's not the case in Lagos State, right? So we have to go with the procurement agency. And these numbers, so we've downloaded it, and like I said, we have timestamps. We're constantly watching to make sure that this evidence is not tampered with. Because they came on to say we should show the evidence, like we just pasted things from nowhere. We got the documents from the Lagos State government itself.
All right. As at this morning, then, what is the status of the amount of money that was claimed was used to offset the cost of legal representation for the governor? We know that the one of deputy governor.
So, you know, it's still early, but as of yesterday,
yes,
it is still 200 million. As of yesterday, it's still 200 million.
It's still up
right?
there.
So we'll
it's still up there on the website.
See what it is.
Okay.
It's still up there, yes, as of yesterday.
So what does that say to you then? If the Commissioner for Information could come up in the public to say that no such money went out, but then days after that statement, it's still up on the website as, you know, as a public document without any alteration. Is there a confusion in-house, or you think that this is more than more than we can see?
No, honestly, I just think it's a level of ineptitude. And just the idea that we can lie and we get away with it, there are no consequences. Whether it's at election, we'll use violence to ensure that we stay in. I mean, even when you look at the NSAR situation, Governor Sanwo-Olu came on TV and said nobody was shot, nobody died. And then only to find later on that there was a document that was supposed to allow for the burial of about 120 people from the same Lagos State. So we cannot say that he's not aware of these things. So it's a normalization that whatever accusation comes at us, we'll come out, we'll deny it barefaced, regardless of what evidence is out there, because the people, there will be no consequence. They believe that after a week, 2 weeks, people will forget about it, people will move on, right? And that's not the way good governance is created. Good governance is created not only from the people in office, but from the citizenry, opposition, standing on items to create a situation where the ultimate beneficiary of opposition are the people, right? When you have a situation where government be an uproar and should not be, and there are consequences, then they behave better. But if governance is allowed to just go on without any consequences, then we have these kind of situations where you are spending millions organizing an event for your political party when people are complaining that they cannot afford to buy their asthma inhaler anymore. People in the market are complaining about high cost of inflation and they cannot survive. People are suffering. Nigeria is hard. And I've always talked about the need for empathy. You look to the leaders, there must be a show of empathy because they are getting all the numbers. They are getting all projections of the economy. They should not be so dissociated or disconnected from the realities of their people. And these funds could be better used to, you know, ensure that there's a cushion to all this suffering that people are dealing with in Lagos and Nigeria right now.
I mean, you've spoken about how there are no consequences for these actions, and that's why we continue to see a barrage of misuse of public funds. And this alleged misuse of public funds, of course, is a very serious accusation. So I want to know what legal avenues you believe should be pursued to hold those responsible accountable beyond the call for resignation. If Governor Sanwo-Olu does not resign, what alternative courses of actions do you intend to pursue to ensure accountability, transparency, and responsible governance in Lagos?
Yeah, so, you know, the governor has immunity, right? So it's not like I can take him to court for any criminal offense. So the next step is to work with the State Assembly for them to commence impeachment procedures. Now, we put all this evidence to the State Assembly and say, listen, it's your duty, your oath of office to hold this arm of government responsible. And we start that dialogue. Another thing that we must continue to do as citizens and as opposition as well is to ensure that we're looking to make sure that good governance is happening. This is not a time for anybody to go to sleep and wait for another 2-3 years for elections anymore. And that's why I celebrate people like Mr. Funsho Doherty. He's doing a very good job. And all of us, all citizens must come together and say, okay, this is what we want. Ultimately, our main aim is to have a government that works for us. That's what we want, right? And you cannot just leave the governance and politics to politicians. The people must also get involved, and they must start to demand a higher standard and quality of governance. And that's the only way we will get to where we need to get to. So the main step now, we're talking on the party. We had a meeting yesterday, the party chairman, and we'll put out a statement and a letter directly to the Speaker of the House, Honorable Obasa, and put all the evidence before him and ask him to commence impeachment procedures on the governor.
All right, Gbadebo, what do you say to people, especially critics, who say that while they accept that Mr. Funsho Doherty was very, upright, his language was civil, and that he went about the duty of showing irregularities in a way that is good for democracy, that yours contain a lot of vitriol. Will you say that, is that because you took the governor to court and you have lost, up to the appeal case? Will that be the reason why a lot of people think that the reason behind your own position is political rather than trying to seek good governance?
I think all of that is just a distraction. Vitriol, all of that is just a distraction. We are talking about monies that have been stolen from the Commonwealth. That's what it is. Monies have been spent on the personal legal expenses of Mr. Governor. Let us look into that. If you don't like the sentence that I came with, that doesn't change the fact that 200 million naira of Commonwealth, of Lagos Commonwealth, has been taken and used for something else. And it is not a nice... you see, this concept of moderation, of, commenting in this nice way, the life of Lagosians, what they're experiencing is not nice. You must have seen videos of people that are typical APC stalwarts complaining about the quality of life that they are getting. I am inundated with calls of people asking me for help, for support, for medical bills, for rent, for the fact that they cannot pay, they've lost their jobs, businesses have closed down, things are hard. I'm inundated and I have to help and support so many people. Their life is not moderate. It's not a walk in the park. It's not fun. So when a governor is abusing public trust like that, it's not something that I'm going to be smiling at. Because 200 million naira could have done a lot for a whole lot of people to cushion in times like this. And this is what we're seeing. So when people talk about vitriol and all of that, it's life. This is real life. And people are dealing with real issues. People are suffering. People are dying. It's not fun and games, right? So I believe that a governor should not abuse public trust at this point. I believe that a governor should show empathy to the suffering of all his people and should be more responsible, because it then starts to look funny because you come out in an election, there's so much violence, there's so much malpractice, and you say go to court. And the court you're saying we should go to, you're not even responsible enough to pick up your own legal bills. That's very disgraceful. I'm sorry, it's extremely disgraceful. And I don't think that there's any point pussyfooting around this.
As you said, the office of the citizen is the most important office probably. And, that is why you're upset, because the average person is suffering. And when we have a lot of money being spent on things, or allegedly being spent on fragrances or furniture or refurbishment of a place of worship, we also have to ask ourselves about the lack of infrastructure or proper infrastructure that we have in Lagos. As an opposition leader, what would you do, looking ahead? We are often told that the government is broke, the state does not have a lot of money, and yet we are seeing money that is going through things that might not necessarily be proper. So if you were in the position, and also in the position you are now, what would you do to improve the infrastructure in Lagos?
Okay, so first of all, we're talking about financial propriety and empathy. And for me, there is no governor right now that should be talking about spending money on cars that are imported and not made in Nigeria. Because first, you want to also build your human capacity in the state. So we should be looking, every naira that goes out of the public purse should be directed towards generating employment, generating productivity, because then on the long run, you have more payee accounts that are going to be paying taxes back to the government. So that must be a direct strategy. Secondly, in terms of infrastructure, which I've always said from campaign time, to avoid this over-padding, we must benchmark our infrastructure per kilometer, per mile to World Bank benchmarks, right? So you're not getting a situation where you're paying ×3 for one bridge and people are clapping because they've been so disenfranchised for so long, but they could have had 3 bridges, right? And also to open up our governance so that we have more transparent public trust so that the private sector can also get involved in public infrastructure, right? It's very transparent. It's not about who you know or who you are connected to or the equity that the government wants to take in your company. It's about delivering service to people in record amount of time, right? So those are things that will bring in openness and transparency and to gain the public trust so that infrastructure development is not just in the purview of the government. And it's very open and transparent. And people know that when we put this in, this is what we're getting out, right? So that is the direction to go. But more than anything is to show that the funds that you already have, you are managing it very properly. You're managing it in a way that benefits maximum amount of Lagosians.
Then we know Lagos has a dynamic and very complex political landscape. But beyond financial matters, what other areas of governance do you believe requires urgent attention in Lagos? And how do you envision the role of the Labour Party in shaping policies and programs of the state government for the benefit of the majority of Lagosians, especially as a strong opposition party?
Yeah, so Labour Party itself is doing, that's what we're doing here now. We're looking at the way the government is managing things and highlighting things that we believe are not acceptable and looking at ways to make things more acceptable. Our State Assembly members just won, the few that we have in the State Assembly, just won their case in the appeal court this week. So we're looking at them to say, okay, these are bills that we can put forward in terms of healthcare, in terms of social welfare, to ensure that the lives of people are cushioned with the kind of hardship that they're facing currently in Lagos State. In terms of development and all of that, for me, water transportation is extremely key. It's a very low-hanging fruit. Dredging waterways, getting sand out that we can use to sand fill and that we can use for construction, as well as creating new routes for people to be able to move. Because before the colonial masters came to Lagos State, we're moving around by water. We're a collection of islands. That's something that we'll be able to get very quickly and be able to achieve, massive transportation. If you look in Zambia, in Uganda, they are moving 600, 700 people crossings with the ferry, carrying about 150, 200 cars at the same time. So these are things that we can look at and maximize our own unique sort of topography. Aside from that, for me, governance should also focus heavily on human capacity development, which is education, after-school programs, ensuring that people are getting practical knowledge, and also ensuring that we improve our rankings on the ease of doing business. There's so much that needs to be automated. Also, planning approvals. You're looking at a situation where so many people are getting their houses destroyed. And we need you cannot just come with bulldozers and be destroying people's houses. What happened? how did people get this planning approval that they believed in to build this house? You cannot just say, okay, the end user should have gone to investigate. That's fine. But what was the government doing when the foundation was laid, the first decking was laid, the roofing was done? What were they doing all that time? What kind of documentation did these developers have? Who signed those documents? Right? There seems to be just government by force without a human face to it, because so many people that have put in so much resources are now, homeless. Now, that being said, I believe in a wetland protection policy, and I've always said this during my campaign. At the same time, the government must account for why these developments got all this way for them to now only start to be demolished, right? Because it's in that openness and transparency that you start to take away layers of, okay, is it tribalism? Are they targeting people? Are these hate sort of demolitions? And if people sign planning approvals that not go with the state's plan, then the state must have to pay some kind of funding, money to these people that have lost their homes and houses. And we're also looking at ensuring that across the state, we are opening up other parts of the state to development as well. So we're decentralizing development. So these are some of the things that I'll be tackling, that I believe the government should be tackling in terms of moving Lagos forward.
All right, Gbadebo, as we begin to wrap up, just two quick questions. First will be to speak further on the issue that you have just raised last about the demolitions that Lagos State government is carrying out. A lot of people will be interested in why you are trying to bring tribalism into it, given the fact that the sort of demolitions that are going on in Anambra State, nobody is asking who owns the houses. If they were erected illegally, they're going down because they didn't conform to what the law requires. How come you are now saying in Lagos, even after the Ministry of Environment, for example, has asked that if you have any papers, any approval letters that says that you were allowed to build there, bring it forward. Up till now, I doubt if anybody has come out. So I'd like just a short clarification on that. And secondly, what are your immediate plans and political future? Will you stay in Labour Party or return to PDP? Given the fact that you were not able to form an alliance with Jide Adediran Jandor in PDP, which led to you moving over to Labour. And ultimately, even when you've joined Labour Party, part of what people are saying was that the reason why Governor Sanwo-Olu was able to defeat the entire opposition was because Mr. Funsho Doherty insisted that he will be the flag bearer of the coalition of opposition parties, including Labour, including PDP, but you people refused. What are the chances that there will be a formidable opposition in 3-4 years' time to challenge the APC in Lagos State?
Wow, you've asked quite a lot of questions. Okay, so the first one, let me clarify. I said that so there's a lot of information online now. People are reacting to the demolition of buildings, right? It's not, I'm saying there are different colorations to it. There are people that are talking about how they're demolishing buildings because these people don't have access to government or they don't know anybody of influence. People are bringing tribal tones into it. There are all sorts of things. I am calling for an open, transparent means of accountability, because you cannot just be punishing the people of Lagos, right? You also have to look at yourself as a government. I am into construction. I'm an architect. One of the projects I'm working on is in Surulere, inside an estate. There's renovation going on there. The moment, in 2 weeks when I started work, right? First, the boys in the area came to come and demand something from me. And it's almost as though they have a network. At the end of that week, Lagos State sent its people. And in all the work I've done, I have projects, Surulere, in Ikeja, on the island, the same experience. So Lagos State cannot say they are not aware of ongoing developments, right? So my question now is, what is the process by which projects that are not given planning approval, that are built on places that the state does not feel is right, Why do they get to the point where they are finished and can be sold? Lagos State must answer that question. You cannot always be pointing fingers at the people, right? And that's what I'm talking about. And you see, it's one thing to say, I mean, it's just like how the commissioner came to say that there is no evidence of payments that were made to lawyers, right? When I can show you the evidence from Lagos State website. We need a transparent means by which, and a humane means by which we say, okay, if this is the situation you are in, come and prove your case, and there will be damages that will be given to you. It must be something where the people of Lagos are carried along, because it's one thing to come and announce something on TV. What are the means by which people can actually get that compensation? What are the means? How will they be heard? Which office are they going to? Would they be seen by somebody? So that's what I'm talking about. I'm not coloring this thing. There are many people whose houses have been destroyed from all parts of Nigeria, right? I'm just saying so you want a transparent system so nobody can put in these colorations, and that's what I was talking about. Now, I am currently in court. We're finalizing our notice of appeal to go to Supreme Court. Our case is extremely simple. The situation where the Constitution protects people that were born and are dual citizens. But the Constitution, spirit of Constitution, the spirit of it is to ensure that sole fidelity is to the state. So when you are of a certain age, if you go and swear an oath of allegiance, the Constitution frowns on it. So we are trying to set a locus classicus, because this has not come before the Supreme Court ever. For the Supreme Court to, explain to us the Constitution of that section 182 and explain to us, when they say that if a person swears an oath of allegiance, that person is disqualified, what did the Constitution mean? So we're pushing that to the Supreme Court this week that we're going into. In terms of moving to another party, I'm in Labour Party. I'm very happy with my party. We know all the things that came out against us that, created all these problems. So my task now in the next coming years is to build out the party, build the structures, ensure that we have a robust membership drive, and that's my sole focus moving forward. I think I've covered most of your questions.
You definitely have. Thank you so much for being on the morning show. Gbadebo Rhodes-Vival, of course, Lagos Labour Party
Thank you so much for having me.
gubernatorial candidate. Thank you for being on here.